Oh, it's just delightful to be here today. I'm really extraordinarily pleased to have our Poet Laureate in place, our new Poet Laureate. So it's just a sense of accomplishment and joy and welcoming to her. And I feel that I was part of that process, which makes me have a very wonderful sense of satisfaction that we all can do something to try to promote the arts, the appreciation of literature, the appreciation of each other's words and each other's voices. And it's a privilege to have that opportunity. So I was asked to talk a little bit about, how did it come about? How did we find Gwendolyn Morgan as our second Poet Laureate in Clark County? So I will tell you that it was quite a process. Our first call that was put out publicly for applications did not receive any applicants, and I think it was really because there was a tremendous sense of maybe trepidation that they couldn't step up to the kind of example that Christopher Luna had done, even though he would be the first one in his humility to say everyone's voice is worth hearing and encourage people. But he did serve for 2 terms and a little more. Each term is 2 years. So he really did a phenomenal job of putting poetry in the forefront of Clark County's consciousness, I think, for many years. And so the first effort to bring forward a new Poet Laureate, no applicants. It was a little distressing. So our second effort, I thought, well, I need to really encourage and say how important a different voice might be. And of course, no one reads one author. The beauty and joy of literature are the multitude of voices. So again, the call was put out for about 6 weeks. I made an effort through public sources like the Columbian, and also made an effort even to reach into Portland, even though it was necessary for our new Poet Laureate to be a resident of Clark County. I thought perhaps we could reach somebody who is a student at Portland State or University of Portland, and of course I contacted our institutions of higher learning here, Clark County and WSU, and really tried to broaden the reach, and in fact we did get 5 applicants, so that was a great success. So what came from that, and what were the application requirements? Just briefly, of course, resume, literary biography with 2 professional references, 2 letters of recommendation from members of the literary community, and 3 works of poetry. That was the application process for, and also to answer some questions. Then evaluation of these applications. How did we go about doing that? Well, as a member of the Arts Commission, I was one of 3 initial members of the committee to choose the new Poet Laureate. And at the time that we were actually making the choices, there were 2 of us. And so we participated in recognizing the eligibility. We had to be sure that the person lives in Clark County. That was eligibility requirements. They also needed to have 5 years of experience as a practicing poet and have been published in 3 separate collections of poetry, either online or in print. And then we invited 3 jurors who were significant members of our literary community locally, active participants, poets themselves, and participating in the community at readings regularly. We asked 3 persons to serve as jurors, and those 3 persons went through a process of evaluating each of these applications. And of course, how do they do that? It's not just a personal kind of quick reaction. We developed a very helpful rating system that they could use, a number system, 1 through 5, depending on, and various things were evaluated, like the resume, the literary biography, letters of recommendation, the poetry itself that was submitted. And also the jurors were asked to rate our applicants on their working knowledge of contemporary poetry practices and concepts. And also the person who was applying needed to have significant engagement in the local community. So these things were all assessed, and then the final 2 candidates were asked to come for a personal interview and reading, at which there were the jurors themselves and then at least 2 of us from the Clark County Arts Commission participating in that. So the applicants read their works and then were asked some questions that were relevant to how they might see themselves contributing as poet laureate. Each poet laureate is asked to do a project for the community, to engage the community in something that would raise the awareness and engagement of the community in literary appreciation. And this is different for each poet laureate, so that was one thing that we asked them to discuss or talk about and have an idea of. So that was the process, really, and we came to the choice of Gwendolyn Morgan, who is, you will hear her today if you haven't heard her already, an extraordinary voice of depth, tremendous sensitivity to language, a real connection with nature, which I think is a source of great strength for her in terms of dealing with the realities of the world, which she does not avoid. She deals with heavy topics, but she has a source of ever renewed inspiration, I think. She will speak of this herself and you will hear it, but I have been really smitten with the joy of her connection with nature, and so she is an inspiration to me. So that is why and how we have a new poet laureate in the community, and I'm so glad that you asked me to share a little bit. I hope that was helpful. Thank you.